Hello, this is Doug,
Hello, this is Britt,
and we believe that food is medicine. I am sitting with a man that's been very influential in my own life. This is Doug Evans. He also is known as the Sprouts Whiz. I am so excited to be sitting here with him because he truly is a pioneer in the space of food as medicine, micronutrients, microgreens, and how to live an affordable, healthy lifestyle. So, without further introduction, I would like you to meet Doug Evans.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Britt.
Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you. It's been a long time coming. I've really been looking forward to having this
Well, I
conversation.
love your persistence. It's
Thank
it's
you.
very much right up my alley. So
I love it.
so I appreciate that.
Thank you. It must be the New York tendencies.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you didn't persist, it wasn't going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's
You're
just too
busy.
much happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know your story inside and out. I've read your book. I've watched all of your content. I think the life that you're leading is so disciplined and right on with everything that's going on in the world. You really have this lifestyle that could be a solution for all. So I just want you to kind of tell your story a little bit, how you got to where you're at, and then we can just dive in further however we go.
Sure. Well, I think the beginning is that I think we came out in nature just perfectly. And nature is much wiser than any human. And that if we go back to natural ways, we can live, healthily. And a lot of the things interfere, with our natural progression. And probably the greatest culprit that I've seen is food. So the food that we eat can radically determine, our health and lifestyle. And the obvious one is if you're eating a lot of processed food, fat food, meat, dairy, and animal products, you can become overweight. And that overweightness isn't bad from a level of just judgment that thin people are better than fat people, but it's moreover that being overweight can lead to diabetes, can lead to heart disease, it could lead to cancer, it could lead to strokes, and all these other food related issues. So the thing that helped me was taking control of everything that I put in my mouth, and I went through a radical kind of survey of what I was eating and what I determined, both intellectually and intuitively, to be worthy of my consumption.
Our weight is storage for toxins. So the inflammation and the weight that we carry is where our body stores the particles that it does not understand. So when you're eating anti-inflammatory and when you're not eating animal products and things that cause inflammation, it's quite radical, the changes that you notice. What were some significant changes you noticed as you began down this path?
Yeah, I think that the first thing I noticed was how good I felt. And it's so interesting because if you were eating, and I was eating a meat, bread, pizza, pasta, and I would eat until I'd be full. So when I started to eat fruit and I started to eat sprouts, I was hungry, or at least I thought I was hungry. And what happened was I was actually filled with energy. I needed something to do with that energy. But it took a while to reestablish the association that I didn't need to eat myself to fullness or to become numb, that I could eat. And then I was able to intellectually understand that all nutrition, in order to be assimilated, has to be converted into liquid form. That's why babies are consuming breast milk in a liquid form, and they're able to rapidly digest and assimilate that nutrition. So if we eat food, we have to chew it, we have to break it down and inside the stomach in order for it to cross through the barrier into assimilation and ultimately get into our blood and into our system. It has to turn into liquid. So if you start with foods, fruits and vegetables that are predominantly liquid, you're already halfway there. And then the insoluble fiber is actually great for feeding the trillion microbiome that we have in our gut. and actually is processing for cleaning the colon and sweeping things through.
Amazing. Now, a lot of people come at the vegan diet and the plant-based diet saying you don't get all your amino acids, it's not a complete protein, and I just would like to hear what you have to say about that.
I mean, the reality is humans are the only creatures that eat cooked and processed food, right? So in nature, we have animals and mammals that never are overweight or underweight. They eat very intuitively and instinctively. And foods, all nutrition begins with plants. So if you're eating plants, you're getting directly to the source. So there was, when people ask me the question, where do I get my protein from? My response isn't trying to justify, oh, I get it from eating X, Y, and Z. I know the answers to that. My question to them is, where do you get that question? Are you a nutritionist? Are you studying nutrition? And the reason why they're asking that question is because the mega marketing machine is attempting to plant the seed that we need protein. Like all of a sudden protein is this great nutrient that we need so much of. And the reality is my caloric breakdown, if I were to really analyze, and I do not on a daily basis, but on a pretty regular basis, I list everything that I eat. And my breakdown is about 80 to 90% carbohydrates, 10 to 5% protein, and no more than 5 to 10% of fat. So that's like what I'm eating in my diet of fruit and sprouts and sea vegetables.
Amazing. Your mention of B12 and how it's not readily available in meat and animal products and how we get our B12, if you could kind of go into that a little bit.
Sure. So B12 is essential, but we don't know how really essential it is. And in the reductionist mindset, they really want to say we need so much B12 and so much B6 and so much folate and so much vitamin C. And they come up with these general parts. And as a result, they're requiring supplementation, fortification, etc. But then a justification for consuming meat is that meat contains B12 where plants do not. And the reality is the source of B12 comes from bacteria, and that bacteria would form on plants. So in a natural environment, humans would be eating plants that had bacteria so they could form B12. And animals, for their own requirement of B12, would be eating plants that had natural bacteria on them that would form the B12. Since the average animal, or not even the average, the majority of animals are now consuming diets that are inconsistent with their natural nature, there is none of that bacteria on the plants, the wheat, corn, soy that they're feeding these herbivores. So as a result, they are fortifying their feed with supplementation of synthetic vitamin B12. So if you're going to take a supplement, you could take the B12 directly, and there's absolutely categorically no need to consume animal products for B12 when you're actually getting an indirect source of that anyway.
Right. Okay. Now, supplements, you bring me to that great question. I know that a lot of them are synthetic. There's so much junk in stores. You can't even buy anything at a CVS these days. But in supplementation, is there anything that you recommend to someone with autoimmune disease struggling to fight for their health holistically with food?
I mean, it's such a good question. And, I'm not a doctor, so I recommend speaking to functional medicine doctors or naturopaths that are also aligned with your values and your dietary conditions, because people are all over the place with it. But the reality is, it's very possible that someone could be deficient or depleted in a certain set of vitamins, minerals, or nutrients. And I think if you were to really kind of peel back the onion and ask, in an authentic, deep conversation, you could probably get the answer that you're better off getting the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals from a food source. But since people are not eating high quality food, they're eating white bread, they're eating dairy products, they're eating processed meats, then they're not going to get this complete array. So therefore, an entire industry was formed about supplementation, and now it's a take a measurement, eat your crappy food, take this magic pill. So in my world, I would go for a very clean diet. I look for everything that I'm consuming, that I'm willing to put in my mouth as this life or death decision. And then I want to eat a wide array of diversified plants. And it's so easy to do with sprouts because you could be having alfalfa, radish, clover, broccoli, chia, lentils. And within the lentils and within the peas, there's tons of varieties. So you can get this enormous diversification, of plant nutrients. And every single one of these plants has a different nutrition profile. So it's very easy and totally possible to get everything that you need by consuming sprouts, raw fruits, raw vegetables. And if you're having enough variety and you're having enough calories, you're going to get healthy. Now, what happens is if you are not doing it right, you're going to continue to fall and fail, and you can take supplements, but the supplements may not solve your problems because the supplements are in isolation and the body works very complicated and doesn't work in isolation. It works in harmony with other nutritional bioavailable factors.
Let's talk about, there's such a conversation around, I can't afford organic. I can't eat like that. I don't have time. Sprouts is such an affordable, quick, on the go, nutritional source of nutrients, vitamins, minerals. So growing their own sprouts, what's the best way to get started?
Yeah. Well, look, I think that saying that organic is expensive is just an excuse. It's like saying it's hard to quit smoking. And the only reason it's hard to quit smoking is because the tobacco companies launched a major campaign to make everyone think that it's hard to quit smoking. So people don't even try because no one wants to do hard things. So if in the zeitgeist it was like, oh, it's easy to smoke, it's easy to quit smoking, then everyone would just stop because it's easy. And the reality is, I know so many people that were smoking and they got into the mindset that it was easy to quit smoking and they stopped smoking. And when it comes to organic, it's very easy. Like I see people lining up to go to Starbucks, spending between $4 and $6 for a cup of Java, with dairy, with added sugar, etc. And that could easily, the cost of that one purchase in Starbucks could provide 6 servings of organic vegetables.
Love that.
So sprouts are very easy. And I would say a great place to start, I have a free newsletter you could sign up for at thesproutbook.com. And in there, there's recipes, there's resources, there's guidelines. What you need to sprout, and there's a chapter in my book called Junkyard Dog, where you need a vessel, could be a empty sauce jar, cheesecloth, a rubber band, and I recommend high quality organic sprouting seeds because sprouting seeds are higher grade than the lowest level that might be at the bottom of the bulk bin, in the supermarket. And that's it. You get the seeds, you soak the seeds, you can surface sanitize the seeds using peroxide or sodium hypochlorite. And then, within days, you can have edible food. And when I moved here to the desert back in 2018, I realized I was in a food desert and I wanted to continue eating a healthy, raw, plant-based lifestyle. And the obvious, unequivocal solution was sprouts. So I started to sprout, and within 30 days, I was literally consuming thousands of calories a day and eating exclusively sprouts, and my life just transformed.
Have you ever been in a situation where you've taken a bite outside of what you're eating and you feel the effects of what food that's dead or doesn't have any nutrition does to your body now that you're so high frequency from this food?
Oh yeah. I mean, I eliminated salt, oil, and sugar added in my diet. So obviously, I'm eating things that have natural oils if I'm eating an avocado or if I'm eating an olive, but I won't eat the oils. I won't add additional salt, certainly won't add an additional sweetener. If I'm consuming something that is salted or that is cooked or that has oils, I immediately triggers this scarcity factor in my brain that wants me to eat more. Like if you were to eat raw broccoli or raw cauliflower or raw sprouts, you would eat them until you were nutritionally satisfied, and then the natural mechanisms in the body would say, okay, I'm done. If you were to take those items and cook them, fry them, saute them with salt, oil, or sugar, so one or all of, or a combination of those, you are no longer eating based on hunger. You are eating based on the pleasure trap, as defined by Doug Lisle and Alan Goldhammer, that this is evoking a dopamine trigger in the brain that's saying, oh, this is good, let's eat. And you're eating when you're not hungry, you're eating more than you should, and then you start to feel the taxation and the weight of the consumption of these heavy elements.
Now, do you do any practices for detox or fasting? Do you have any rituals or routines?
I do a daily, probably 18-hour window of non-eating. So I have a small window that I consume typically between noon and 6 p.m. where I'll eat food. And then frequently, whether it be monthly or quarterly, I'll do a day of only water, or quarterly, I can do a week of water only. And I'm doing that just to kind of recalibrate to see how well I can actually thrive without the dependency or codependency on food.
Are you aware of the toxicity in fashion and synthetic fibers? Do you only wear natural fiber?
Yeah, plastic is really the enemy. Like my pants, these are hemp. This
Amazing.
is organic cotton, dipped 12 times in indigo.
Amazing.
And our sheets are organic cotton or hemp or linen. And, there's part of it for like what I want to have on my body. But the real kind of driver for that is I don't want to participate in the exploitation of the land and of the humans. When I found out that cotton was the most sprayed crop, and that like in India, which is a major source of cotton, there are probably 10,000 suicides a year from farmers whose farms have failed because of the conventional farming practices with high amounts of pesticides. So I really want to do nothing that's part of that system. And I'll wear the same shirt every day as opposed to wearing something that's not organic or naturally dyed.
Amazing. Thank you. That's wonderful. Anything else?
I think I feel pretty complete.
I know, I do too.
I feel complete.
I made you, and I know you don't eat this, so maybe it won't work, but I made a mung bean flour bread that's grain-free, dairy-free, egg-free.
My wife and baby will like that.
There you go. And I also made some brownies from our cookbook that are grain-free, dairy-free, egg-free.
Oh, terrific. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And our guests. For me, I'm living in this world where it's so simple for me to eat fruit. And at 57 years old, I want to feel so consistent.
Yes.
And I found it easy because I just love sprouts so much and I love fruit so much that I feel very complete.
Yes.
With just eating those.
Yes.
So if I deviate, like those things, they sound so good. Like yes. I would eat the whole thing. Like I would just eat the whole thing because I don't have restraint.
Right.
Like I just
You're used to eating like 5 watermelons.
Yeah. So if you give that to me, I'll eat it. And so that's my decision and choice.
I get it. I appreciate that. I really think it's so admirable how much discipline you have around food, because I think that's one of the hardest things to transform for people is the decision to, opt out of all the chemical foods and the fake processed foods and the foods that don't serve our health, but then to stick with it. And I think that awareness is the first step, understanding what's wrong with our food, what it's doing to us, to make the right decisions for our bodies.
Yeah, I don't find it like discipline at all.
Yeah.
I find it to be like obvious.
Yes.
Like we're sitting here,
right,
and there's no circumstance that I could imagine that would cause me to inflict pain on you.
right,
Right? Like I'm not going to throw sand at you. I'm not going to push you. Right? Like I'm not going to yell at you.
right,
So that's the way I treat you, and that's the way I want to treat myself.
right,
And with that mindset of like how I treat myself, I know that the healthiest thing for me are these raw living foods.
yes,
So I want to honor myself, and if I look at it with that mindset, it's very easy
yes,
to live within that framework.
yes,
If I looked at it like, like if you asked me to go hang on the pull-up bar, after like a minute, like it's really hard, and then I have to discipline, and then I have to. But with the food, it's just easy.
yeah, that's a great way to put it. I love that. You don't have to dive in all at once to the non-toxic living lifestyle, but food is a great place to start because what we consume, really determines our wellness. You're living proof of epigenetics, that you really transformed. It stopped generationally with you. So if you could tell a little bit about your family history.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up in the East Coast. My parents had a European background. When we got here, food was a challenge, and we would have some piece of meat, dairy, or animal product, for every dinner. And as a result, by the time I was 33, most of my immediate family was chronically ill. So my aunt had type 2 diabetes, and they had to amputate both of her feet. And then she ultimately died from complications with diabetes. And then my uncle got heart disease and passed away rather quickly. And then my mother, we thought she was having an ulcer. She went to the hospital. She ultimately had stomach cancer and then died within 3 months. And then soon after, my father died of heart disease in the same hospital as my mother. And then my brother, who was not, we were both eating the same thing, but he was older, and he became overweight, diabetic, became obese, then had the first of 3 strokes and a heart attack. And I saw that and I thought I was genetically cursed. And then someone told me that it wasn't genetics, that I was living a carcinogenic, heart disease laden, diabetic lifestyle. And that if I changed what I ate, I could change my genes and change my destiny. So my brother continued eating his way. I immediately went cold cucumber when I was 33 years old, and I started to eat healthy, raw, plant-based, and I lost the weight, I got the energy, and I feel younger today than I did when I was 33. Healthier, more energy. And so it's really not your family history. It's your actions. And if you're taking the right action, then you can, change your destiny.
Thank you for watching this incredible exclusive interview with Doug Evans. I hope this interview leaves you inspired to take action in your own life. Since this interview, Doug has launched his own world-class sprouting kit. Just head over to thesproutingcompany.com and use code FEAST2WELLNESS for 10% off your first purchase. Here to support you all the way to symptom-free.